Ladies and gentlemen, before I do start my address or lecture or whatever you want to call it, can I just say to Alistair, congratulations on leading your side to another Ashes win. Very well deserved. And obviously to you, Andrew Strauss, and Peter Graves, and anyone else that's from the board that are here, well done. And also to Mihaela, can I congratulate you on just a wonderful career. Fantastic. Now, I'm pretty honoured to be actually asked by David to do this, so I'll give it my best shot, and if that's not good enough, well, you know what they say in the classics. The last time that I actually recall seeing Colin Cowdrey was at a warm-up match during the 1983 World Cup down at Arundel. We were playing against New Zealand, and the captains had agreed that each team would bat for one day. We batted first on a belter and scored plenty. I even got a few, I reckon. So day two, it was a Kiwis' turn, and didn't they cash in? I remember Glenn Turner opening the batting and our great fast bowler, Dennis Keith Lilliop, opening the bowling. Dennis bowled a few short deliveries in his first over, and each one was dispatched to the boundary. Needless to say, his next few overs were a tad quicker and sadly a tad shorter. He was belted by Glenn Turner from deck chair to deck chair as Turner raced towards his half century. Now, sanity prevailed for a while, for an hour or so, when Dennis was rested. But when he returned for his second spell, just before lunch, the mayhem recommenced. For some reason, our fast bowler must have thought there was extra pace and bounce in the pitch since his last turn at the crease. He bowled the same length, and Turner gave him the same treatment. Thankfully, the lunch break came just in the nick of time, I might add. DK was fuming, and he stormed off the ground as only he could. Now, I'm not sure what Colin Cowdrey, that is, had been doing that morning, but it was pretty obvious that he hadn't been at the match. I say this because he was there to greet us as we came off the field and said to our champion fast bowler as he burst through the doors of the pavilion, "Well bowled, master." Now, Colin would have just expected Dennis to bowl well, wouldn't he? He would never have seen him bowl any other way. Now, the purpose of this story is to mention the spirit of cricket and to give you an example of just how nice a man Colin was. He always had something nice to say about a person. His comment to Dennis was very well intended. Dennis's unprintable reply, however, was certainly not in the spirit of cricket. But bloody hilarious given the circumstances. Now, tonight I'll talk about the spirit of cricket in the modern game. I'll touch on some of the law changes I believe can benefit the game and give you some of my thoughts how we can ensure test match cricket will be in a healthy state in the future. Firstly, the spirit of cricket, important. When I was a youngster, of course, there was no television and we had to rely on the radio, or wireless as it was called, to follow test match cricket. There was no one-day cricket, and it was indeed a highlight when my brother and I managed an invitation to our parents' bedroom to listen to a test match being broadcast from England. As a result of this, I dreamt of playing test cricket for Australia. There was no thought of an umpire making a mistake before television. There was no thought of a player disputing a decision. The game happened without microscopic scrutiny. But there were characters in the game. You can't tell me Freddie Truman wouldn't have had the odd word to a batsman after he'd played and missed 3 times in an over. The banter was and should remain part of our game. What remains vitally important is the players are educated at an early age that above all they must respect the game. The umpires, the opposition and their own teammates. I was fortunate enough to be involved in 3 national academies in Australia, in India and in England. And the message of respect was very much part of my non-negotiables for these young tyros. That important. I completely understand how players can get hot under the collar during a contest, but I'll never understand how personal abuse can make it any better. It should not and cannot be tolerated in our game. Now, it makes my blood boil every time I'm quoted as having delivered one of the best ever cricket sledges. Supposedly, I said to last year's Cowdrey lecturer, Ian Botham, on his arrival at the crease during a test match, "How's your wife and my kids?" It obviously didn't make your blood boil. He also supposedly replied, "The wife's fine, but the kids are retarded." Now, I can promise you I would never ever make a comment like that to a fellow cricketer. And the reason, I've got too much respect. I do plead guilty to something I said to Derek Randall, however, during a test match at Old Trafford. He was not out overnight, and the next morning he arrived at the crease in his usual fidgety fashion. And he turned to me, for some reason, I don't know why, first over in the morning, I was standing up over the stumps. Obviously Lily and Thompson weren't bowling. And he said, "Can you believe it? Good morning, Rodney." He was a weird dude, that fella, I'll tell you. Well, naturally, I didn't reply because, you know, the old rule, 11 versus 2. We're 11 out there, there's 2 of them out there. Why do you want to make them feel at ease? You don't want to make them feel at ease. But he continued to turn around and say, "Good morning, Rodney." I continued to ignore him. Eventually, he won. And I said, "Mate, this is a test match, not an effing garden party." I don't think he got many more, actually. That was good. Now, Ian Chappell, our great captain, is mistakenly labelled as one of those players who didn't necessarily abide by the spirit of cricket. For the record, I want to set that straight. Ian played the game hard, but he was very uncompromising. I never once heard him abuse an umpire or an opposition player. I did hear him say on many occasions after we'd appealed for an LBW decision and the batsman indicated that he'd hit the ball, that he said to the batsman that basically he should leave the appealing to us, leave the decision making to the umpiring, and he get on with the batting. And that's without the expletives. Ian was also quick to put an end to any of his teammates' misbehaviour on the field. He saw this as his responsibility, and this is very much what this law, the spirit of cricket, actually means. What will they do with their hand out to make sure people want to come along and watch test match cricket? That is the burning question.